All right, let's jump right in. If you're a B4X developer, you already know how crucial it is to have a UI that's not just sharp and modern, but also super performant. And you know what? A huge piece of that puzzle is your icons. Today, we're going to talk about a component that is a total game changer for how you handle icons and graphics in your B4X apps. It's called the B4X DaisySvgIcon. So let me ask you something. Have you ever spent hours, maybe even days, exporting bitmap icons at 5 different resolutions just to have them look kind of blurry on some new high-density screen? Yeah, we've all been there. Or maybe you've had to use a clunky, heavy WebView component just to render one simple vector graphic, and you can almost feel the drag on your app's performance. These are the exact things that hold our UIs back. Well, we're moving away from all that. We're talking about a move away from blurry, inefficient bitmaps and those laggy web views. We're leaving behind the battle days of manually juggling hex color codes and writing complex, messy code just to get an icon on the screen. And where are we headed? To a world of crisp, infinitely scalable vectors, lightning fast native rendering, and a simple, beautiful API. And how do we get there? Well, that's where the B4XDaisySvgIcon component comes in. And listen, this isn't just another library you drop in. It represents a fundamental shift in how you can build user interfaces in B4X because it was built from the ground up for 2 things: performance and simplicity. So what on earth is native rendering? What does that even mean? Well, basically, it means the component takes your SVG file and draws it directly onto the screen using the platform's own graphics engine. There's no middleman. If you peek at the source code for Android, you'll see hundreds of lines of dedicated Java code just for parsing and drawing paths. This isn't some cheap web wrapper. It's a true high-performance rendering engine. It's the real deal. And this is a big one. By completely cutting out web views for rendering icons, you get this massive boost in responsiveness and your memory usage just drops. Your app feels lighter, it runs faster, and believe me, your codebase gets a whole lot cleaner. It's an incredible win-win. And look how simple it is. Getting a perfect, crisp, native rendered SVG into your app, it boils down to this one super readable line of code. No more boilerplate, no more complicated setups. You just point it to your asset file and poof, it just works. Okay, so performance is awesome, but what about making things look good, right? Let's move on and see how this thing helps you build a consistent and beautiful design system. This component introduces a concept called variance, which is inspired by the super popular DaisyUI framework. And it's all about giving your colors actual meaning. So instead of telling an icon to be, forest green, you tell it to represent success. Instead of bright red, you tell it that it signifies an error. This whole semantic approach means you can change your entire app's theme just by tweaking your variant palette, and boom, all your icons update automatically, but they keep their contextual meaning. This is so powerful for building UIs you can actually maintain. Let's see it in action. This is the fun part. So here in the demo code, we've got one single SVG file, book open solid.svg, and we're just going to throw different variants at it. First step is primary, our main brand color. Now with just one property change, we call set color variant secondary, and just like that, it's now our secondary theme color. And here's our accent color, maybe for things you want to draw a little attention to. And finally, our success color. See that? We didn't touch a single hex code. We're just telling the icon what its purpose is, and the design system handles the rest. It's beautiful. Okay, so we've got fast icons, we've got beautifully styled icons, but apps aren't static, are they? They have to do stuff. We need our UI elements to be dynamic and responsive. So let's see how this component handles sizing and composition for building real-world interfaces. Sizing is just as straightforward as styling. The size set method uses these really simple, intuitive tokens. You can see in the example code, it's being set to 16 pixels, 24 pixels, all the way up to 40 pixels. And because it's a vector, it scales perfectly every single time, with absolutely zero loss of quality. It's going to be pixel perfect, always. Now for my favorite part. This is where it gets really cool. Composition. An icon on its own is great, but what if we need to show a status, like a little notification dot on a bell icon? Let's build that right now. The process, which you can see in the render indicator card function from the source, is just these 3 simple logical steps. First, we create our bell icon component. Second, we create a separate indicator component. And then third, we just attach the indicator to the icon. It's an incredibly intuitive component-based way of thinking. And check it out, there's the result. A perfect little success indicator placed exactly where you'd expect it to be. The real magic here is that the components are working together. We're not manually calculating coordinates and pixels, we're just describing a relationship between UI elements, and the framework handles all the layout for us. Okay, a dot is cool, but what about something a little more complex? A really common pattern is a counter badge, right, to show the number of notifications. Let's try that, using the example from the render counter card function, which makes a counter with the number 12 and an error variant. Easy. Seriously, it's that simple. And get this, it's the exact same indicator component we just used. All we did was call setCounterTrue to tell it to act as a counter and then gave it some text. This just shows you how flexible and reusable these components are. You can build these complex, stateful UI elements from really simple, composable parts. So let's bring this all home. We've seen speed, we've seen styling, and we've seen composition. But what's the big picture takeaway here? It's all about what this unlocks, the ability to build sophisticated, modern user interfaces entirely with native B4X components without needing the crutch of a WebView. So it really boils down to these three huge wins. First, you get elite performance because you're drawing directly on the native canvas. Second, you get a robust and consistent style thanks to that awesome semantic variant system. And third, you get profound simplicity from a clean API that frees you from all the complexity and overhead of WebViews. And that really leaves us with one final thought to chew on. With this new level of performance and design capability right at your fingertips, what could you build? What does it unlock for you when the tools you use aren't just powerful, but also simple and elegant? This component doesn't just give you better icons. No, it gives you a fundamentally better, faster, and more elegant way to build your apps.